Make sure you don't miss a thing. Go to starzology.com/newsletter and sign up. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I am your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hello, Alison. It's wonderful to be here again.
Thanks so much for joining me once more. So in this episode, we're going to be tackling Uranus's entry into Gemini.
Yeah.
So that's going to be happening during 2025-2026. We're going to be talking about a little bit about what it means for everybody, what energies are coming forward, what sort of things we can anticipate, and maybe we can look at how it's going to be for some of you good folks out there too.
That sounds excellent.
Yeah. Uranus is going to go into Gemini. It's going to go in, and then it's going to go back out into Taurus, and then it's going to go back in again. So it's doing one of those
little retrograde dances.
The little shuffle, the shuffly-do there.
The shuffle, the mambo. Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So it's on July the 7th, 2025. Uranus will go into Gemini. So this is the first time in 84 years that it's been in the sign.
Yeah, it's got a very long
one. Yeah. And it's going to be there until November the 8th, 2025, when it will once more retrograde back into Taurus just for 5 months, just to give that final kick of the can in Taurus. And then next year, in April 26th, 2026, it will move into Gemini finally and be there for the next 6-7 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's doing the outer planets often do this.
They do, yeah.
The little shuffly-do, the dozy-do, is it, or something?
Yeah, the teaser and then the dive-in.
Yeah. We used to say that when a planet goes back into the sign it's been in for 7 years, it's going back to unpack its locker, and then it's finally moving on.
It was fired on a leave of absence.
Yes.
And it came back, cleaned out its locker.
Yeah, got to go back and get its little banker's box full of memorabilia.
And it always has one last little kick, like,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, especially Uranus. Uranus is famous for just doing things right on the day of entry.
On the day.
I mean, the famous tsunami when it went into, I believe it was Aries back in 2011. Whoa.
It was on the day, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yes. It was awful. I remember waking up that day.
Couldn't believe it.
And I worked remotely for, a large company, and I had a lot of coworkers who were in different parts of the world, and they were online for like a long time before I was. I, of course, on the West Coast, so everyone's up before me, and the first thing I see is like, Japan, and I'm like, oh, damn it, I need to go and Google what's happening, and then of course I'm inundated with all these awful videos, and I remember going, what's the astrology, and seeing that was the day, literally the day of the ingress.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because suddenly, without warning, which is what they used to say, right?
Yeah. And Uranus is all about that lightning strike, that
those sudden
disruptions.
Yeah.
For good or ill.
Yeah. So some of the keywords we use for Uranus are breakdowns, and breakups.
And breakthroughs.
Yeah. Yes.
Disruption and innovation and that lightning strike of inspiration.
Yes. It's also where you are unique and your genius shows.
That's
but
right.
Frequently, if you're not paying attention, I do think you kind of get a kick in the pants from Uranus. It gives you a little, we're not doing that anymore. And something gives, so you get that kind of thing. Yeah,
it goes through these 7-year things. The entire cycle of the zodiac for Uranus takes about 81 to a little bit more years.
Yeah.
And so that means it takes like 7 years-ish to get through each sign, which makes it a really interesting marker for trends and fashion. And that's one of the ways that I've liked to sort of track the movements of Uranus, because it's, not just fashion in clothes, but also fashion in music, fashion in movies and technology. And you'll notice that there are these sort of 7-year cycles. Like, we like to think in terms of decades because it's very convenient for us in the modern era. And that's mostly kind of a mathematical distinction. I find it's just easier to say, the 80s, the 90s. But when we talk about certain decades, like the 60s, for example, early 60s, Mad Men era, totally different from like the late 60s, Woodstock era, right?
Yeah.
So you can really see those changes like mapped quite a bit more accurately if you're watching the Uranus cycle. Yeah. And when Uranus moves from one side to another, that's when you really see those big differences in kind of the just the culture You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. It's one of those, not quite a historical marker, but it's where you've got, that's why it's called generational too, because my first teacher always said to us that, if you're going to marry someone, make sure they've got Uranus in the same sign as you, because they're in the same group moving forward. And as a teenager, which is this era, they were... They listened to the same movies and had the same pop and pinned up the same pin up on the wall.
Right. I mean, if you're marrying for comfort and similar experiences in life, that is absolutely true.
Clearly, you didn't. You got two different ones.
my taste has always been one sign behind.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, then again, also I have Uranus and Pluto both in Libra, so I like someone who has Uranus and Pluto in Virgo, because also that then like aligns with all my
connects
Virgo
your planets too. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
I know.
I know. Me too. I didn't. My husband was not a Uranus in Gemini.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I've got Uranus in Leo, so yeah. Okay, and then
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, and then the Gemini main keywords tends to be. Clearly, it's duality. It can be communication. It's juggling two things at the same time. Talking out of both sides of your mouth often, frequently. So it's, and computer-wise, to do with language and that, Gemini is pretty forward, I think, too. So anyway, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So there's going to be these definite shifts. Whereas when Uranus was in Taurus and is as we speak, this was the 7-year period where cyber currencies came up.
Yeah. Where
the internet and computers, which is Uranus, joined together with Taurus, which is basically banking, and Bitcoin and or you name them. I don't know them, but back in the beginning, it was just Bitcoin and
Russia invading Ukraine and like the first. I mean, it was definitely not the first, but what we perceived in the West was like, oh my God, this is the first land war in how long, right?
Yes,
and it's land war, definitely a Uranian in Pluto in Taurus thing, right?
Yeah.
And what's Uranus in Gemini? That's cyber war. Clearly, communications war of propaganda.
Yes,
misinformation,
and
we're already seeing that.
And it really does lean towards, to me, to be online stuff that's coming forward now, where the
massive investments in AI, like every major company and every major government. This is clearly a Uranus in Gemini thing. The disruption of languages, the disruption of words, the disruption that has to do with this, the short wave information transfer, person to person communicating on your devices, like the tangible, not the broadcast, which is like the global broadcast is more Sagittarian, maybe the top down kind of thing. This is like peer to peer.
Yeah,
the communication that happens every day.
Yeah. So, I mean, things like texting are we talking about, where it's going to, everybody's on board with it now. Yeah. It wasn't the case.
A solar flare disrupting the grid, I mean, these are the kinds of things.
That kind of thing, yes.
Yeah, yes. I mean, Uranus, like, disrupting the day-to-day communications and the way that we think that, the way that we get information, the way that we communicate with each other on an actual peer-to-peer, day-to-day sort of level.
Right.
Those are the kind of disruptions that I feel are the dark
under.
side.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But also, obviously, technological advancement, revolutionary ideas, increasing our connectivity and our ability to on the fly communicate and to come up with solutions really quickly. Maybe not the best solution, but a fast solution. So,
this is it. You can get the answer to any question in the bat of an eyelid.
Yeah.
But
will it be accurate and will it be lasting?
Yes. Perhaps not. The information's definitely there. But what comes to mind is I've recently come across these people where you've got these romance scams where so they're hooking you in. Usually it's an elderly woman who's been hooked in by Prince Charming and fleeced while she's at it,
Some guy in a server farm overseas somewhere. And I mean, and not to say that he's an evil guy either. He's probably being forced to do this through some terrible manipulation where he owes a bunch of debt and he's then being roped into doing, and I say he, but there's male and female, people who are roped into doing these scams. I did a whole article on this.
Yes.
It's, I mean, a terrible name for it, but they call it like a pig butchering scheme.
Yes.
Where they get you, they text you and they say, oh, sorry, I thought you were someone else. And then you're like, oh, that's no problem. And then as soon as you reply back, they're like, oh, and then they get you in conversation. If you're lonely, you might engage in this conversation. Oh, it's another person. Oh, it was fate that we kind of met. Oh, we have so much in common. And they keep you engaged. They have a script for this and they know what to say. They have all these things that they kind of can prey on, these weaknesses that they will exploit. Yes. And next thing you know, they're talking about crypto and you're like, oh, I don't know anything about crypto. Oh, well, look, got this app that you can download. It's super easy. Here, I'll show you how to do it. And then they actually have this whole thing where they make it so you can win a little bit. And then you feel like, oh my God, this is amazing. I've met this crazy, friend who is, teaching me all this stuff about the modern world. And then, next thing you know, literally it could be weeks or months down the line, all of a sudden you're losing and then they ghost you and then, they take you for
whatever,
or millions.
Whatever you have. Yeah.
I've read some absolute horror stories.
Yes. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's like, and this is, I mean, Uranus isn't even in Gemini. We're saying all this, but this is something that's come up really recently.
Yeah. It's super recent. Yeah.
It's, and really the term pig butchering has to do with Taurus more than Gemini, really.
Right.
But
it's fattening the pig for the kill.
Yeah.
It's awful.
It's, but it's because they're understanding human nature. And it's even though that these are online people who generously provide us their platforms for us to do our stuff on, they have psychologists writing it to keep you, it's addicted. Like going to the casino.
Addicted, 100%.
Yeah, you win $10, you think, oh, I'll bet the house.
Absolutely. And there's all these whistleblowers who are coming forward. And I mean, I say whistleblowers, but it's really just people who have worked for any of these companies, including Facebook and Instagram and all these companies. It's not just about the ones who actually want your money. It's the ones who are quote unquote free. And it's all about, the clicks, the eyeballs, the engagement, engagement statistics, anything that keeps you engaged. And that's why they say the platforms are geared to making you angry or to making you, to rile you up, and they'll feed you like news that they know will upset you. And that keeps you kind of like engaged because you're angry. You're like, oh, I want to text back to that one. Oh, I can't put this down because like I might miss something.
Yes.
And it's like this vicious cycle, and it's designed that way. It's not just like, oh, my friends are all political now. It's like, no, it's not just about the actual friends you may have who are like, oh, this friend has now gotten on this rabbit hole of like a certain political faction I don't agree with.
Yes.
It's because the algorithm, the programming of these applications and these websites is designed to keep you engaged at whatever cost.
Yes. And
usually that means angry, upset, and wanting to engage in
and clearly as
adversarial way.
As this goes into Gemini, it's still going to continue, but it might be more subtle.
It might be more subtle, and also there's an educational aspect. Gemini is not. It's not about deep learning. It's about broad learning. It's about like knowing a little bit of everything, just enough to be dangerous in some ways, but also if everybody is armed with this information, it's like, oh no, okay, well. I can use this, but I know that this is all, half of it's BS, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, yes, I buy and sell things on Facebook Marketplace, but I know that about half the people who text me about some product that I'm trying to sell or, people I'm trying to engage with are going to be just either bots or scammers or just whatever. And you have that base level of knowledge that enables you to sort of surf the wave of this new technology.
Yes.
And it's not a great human experience.
No.
But I mean, we're all getting a little more jaded about it. You know?
Well, there's this big move, isn't there, to get a digital detox, to spend 30 days off social media. And I was reading this book written by T.J. Powers called Dose about how to, if you absolutely deplete your dopamine when you are just this doom scrolling business. And if you could put the phone down and go and like weed the garden or work your pastry.
Yes. Do something with your hands that is not just like scrolling.
Yes. It adds to your ability to maintain your levels of these chemicals in your brain that you're supposed to have.
Emotional resilience.
Yes.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah, so I don't know. Hopefully there'll be more writing about that coming up, because if you and I are sort of aware of it, others must be too.
100%.
But for those who have been brought up with a cell phone joined at the hip,
yeah,
you've got a different approach to it than
Gen Z and all that.
Yeah, because we can still remember before we had a cell phone, right?
No, we can tell the tale of like the phone attached to the wall in the kitchen that everybody, your mom answered, and they were like, Robert is looking for you, and you grab the phone. You're like, oh, I'm waiting for that call, and you run around the corner like like a fiend.
Yes,
hi, Robert.
Yes. And no matter what you're doing, Robert, get the phone.
Exactly. Go away. I'm talking to someone. Is it your boyfriend?
Yeah.
Yeah, kids these days don't know what it was like to share a phone with their entire household.
Well, yes.
Gross.
Yes. Imagine, and everyone knows your business back then. But of course, you didn't know who was calling till you picked it up. That's one thing.
Exactly.
Now at least we know who's calling, and it's
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the great things about Uranus is that, as I mentioned before, it is associated with not generations, but a 7-year cycle, which is very associated with fashion, with trends, and with sort of sociological and social trends, changes. Mm-hmm. So if you look back at the last time Uranus was in Gemini, this was 1941 to 1949. Mm-hmm. And you may, if you are an astute historian, notice that was World War II era, but also when we kind of like just skim the surface and look at what were people wearing, what were people doing, what were people thinking, it was an incredibly optimistic era in terms of technology. Women were going into the workforce, and we're obviously, I'm going to do a little disclaimer here. We're talking from a very America-centric, not U.S., but we're in Canada, so the Americas-centric, Western-centric sort of standpoint here. But so if you look at like World War II, the women went into the workforce because the men had gone off to war, and it was a very popular war. So there was this very optimistic Gemini sort of attitude. And we all thought we could, technology is going to save us, communication is going to save us, the industry is going to save us. We're just going to band together and we're going to get this done. And just Google World War II propaganda advertising, and you'll see an amazing array of the art, the art that, it's actually quite beautiful. And some of them are quite strangely homoerotic in an amazing way, which I love that. I'm totally there for that. But there's this one Man the Guns, and it's there's massive guns, these gigantic muscular guys, all oiled up and whatever. I think it's great. Yeah. But anyway, stuff like that. Gemini is kind of a pansexual sign. So,
yes.
So we have very unisex uniforms. Uniforms are very Gemini. Unisex dressing, pants on women. Women weren't allowed to wear pants back then.
Amazing.
And then still mostly they weren't, but if they had to go to work in a factory, for example, they were Rosie the Riveter. She was wearing pants. She was wearing a sporty kind of top. She had her hair pulled back, and it was acceptable all of a sudden to be a little more butch as a woman, a little more masculine. And so that's a kind of a Uranus and Gemini thing that I'm thinking. Obviously we've sort of broken the genders now. It's we bent the genders in the 70s and 80s, and now they're broken. It's fine. It's all shattered into a million pieces. But expect more of that for starters. Definitely don't think that just because Trump's in office and we're not allowed to say they them anymore, it's not going anywhere.
No.
That is definitely going to continue. But I would say there are going to be revolutions in even for the vast majority of us who are not trans or non-binary, there are going to be ways that we express ourselves that are increasingly non-binary or increasingly fluid, gender fluid, gender whatever. And that's an interesting thing about Gemini, because Gemini is all about duality. And it's twins. And if you note in the sort of symbol, it's usually a male and a female twin, fraternal twins.
Right.
So that's my, I guess, prediction for Uranus and Gemini as far as social, fashion, whatever goes.
Well, when I was younger, I was quite fashion conscious, but these days, not so much. But this business of Amazon Basics or whatever they're called, where everyone's wearing, you've got your joggers, you've got your sweatpants,
athleisure,
and you can buy that that pair of pants for men or women, and we're all wearing it. And why? Because they're darn comfortable.
Yeah, they're comfortable. Not most, but like a lot of us in who are, white collar jobs are working from home now.
Yeah.
I mean, I only have to look good from like the neck up, basically.
Not even the waist up.
Not even the waist up. No, I mean, unless I stand up when I'm on a Zoom call, which is rare.
Yes.
And it's usually because the cat's done something naughty.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like tank top and like a little hoodie or whatever.
Stretch clothes and clothes, technically clever clothes. What do they call those? Where they're wick and they've got pockets for everything that you even didn't know you needed. And
I want to say smart fabrics, but that's not right.
Yeah, there's something like that. It's like Patagonia. They have their fabrics are elevated because of the way they're woven and this and that.
Totally.
So I think this is going to be more streamlined and less bling, less in your face that Taurus was. Hey, look at me with my whatever handbag.
Totally.
Now you're more likely to, it's the crossbody, isn't it? It's the,
It's convenient and it's practical and it's dual purpose, Gemini.
Yes. Yeah. I know when I got my first crossbody, probably, 4 or 5 years ago, and I've never gone back.
Oh,
Why would you walk around like,
clutching something that, exactly.
Jackie Kennedy with something hanging on your, or a clutch.
Which can easily be grasped out of your hand.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I learned when I went to college in Baltimore in the 90s was, don't carry a purse wear something that either crosses your body and can't be snatched away from you or carry your stuff in your pockets.
Yeah.
Don't be an advertisement for like, oh, hey, I've got this thing that you can just steal.
Got this handbag.
Yeah.
They used to call it the promenade walk, where you've got your bag over your arm and you're walking down the road like that. Yeah. So
the old, if no one's holding on to it, it's yours. If they're holding on loosely, it's kind of a gray area, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy because, and to be honest, 20, 30 years ago, we had a lot more junk in our handbags than we do now because everything's pared down.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's streamlined. Everything's not necessarily practical, but has a purpose.
You just pay with your phone and you've got all your discount apps on your phone. And I honestly, I can't even remember the last time I actually left the apartment with my wallet. I have a wallet. It's got a bunch of cards in it. I don't need them.
No.
I don't want them.
Well, I don't have cash either. I've got no cash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well,
Totally.
Yeah.
Dual purpose.
Dual purpose.
Yeah.
So let's just have a look at a couple of the houses when Uranus is entering, leaving Taurus and entering Gemini.
Yeah.
And particularly interesting is in your chart, Arwynne, as you may know, and as what I want to point out here is that at the moment for you, Uranus is in your 7th house and has been there for 7 years. So clearly your relationship has gone through a whole load of interesting times.
My relationship has actually gotten more exciting and more interesting over the last 7 years. I will admit that. Yeah, which is awesome.
More exciting. My goodness. Yes.
I mean, for a 26-year relationship.
Well, exactly.
That's a great thing to be able to say.
It really is.
We've had some exciting and wonderful things happen, and it's great.
Well, that's great. So what's happening is that, your 8th house cusp is at 0 degrees, 04 minutes, Gemini, which is so right on the edge. And we know that your birth time is correct because your mother was an astrologer.
Oh, hell yeah. My mother and my grandmother, just in case my mother was out of it, but she wasn't. But yeah.
So I love working with charts.
a.m.
Yes.
On the dot.
So what we're saying is that as Uranus enters Gemini, that will actually occur in your 7th house, in the last whisker of it. And then it will virtually immediately move into your 8th house. Now, Uranus is going to go forward a little bit to 1 degree, then it's going to come back to 27 Taurus. So it's going to be lingering or loitering with intent on your 8th house cusp, going into your 8th house, coming back to your 7th house, and then going back into your 8th house. And this is going to be, it's got to be an interesting thing because it's the 8th house, so it's all to do with your intimate life, your partner's resources, stuff that you can use of others to build your life on.
Yeah, build the empire.
Build your world domination, your empire, the empire of Arwynne.
Yeah, the old OPP, other people's property, which I like to say.
Yes,
the 8th house stuff.
Other people's property, other people's stuff, and you're going to be able to tap into that. And so in July, as it goes through there, it will take a couple of days to actually enter that 8th house. So initially it will occur in the 7th house because the cusp is in the 7th, but it's within a whisker.
Our anniversary is in July, so
is it? And are we going to know how many years you're at this anniversary?
It'll be 27.
27.
On July 18th, so everyone can wish me a happy anniversary.
27 years. Good Lord. So anyway, so this Uranus, which has been there for a long time in your 7th house, it's now going to enter Gemini, boom, and then it will, within the next sort of week or two, enter straight into your 8th house. It's right on the cusp anyway, and within 1 degree, it's within orb. So you are likely to see the bubbling under of what portends as Uranus goes through this 8th house. Do you have any ideas on that?
I mean, we have been toying with the idea of getting married after all this time, which we're not.
Wow. So
that's, that
could
happen that will happen in the next 7 years, for sure.
Okay, so that's coming through. And you were leaning on the resources of your partner, which is, you definitely are, right?
Yeah.
His skills, his social skills, and all the rest of it.
Oh, yes. He brings all the friends into my little introvert circle.
No, that's fine. And all what he's offering you is all there. And of course, it's all very interesting. Yeah. It's probably going to be a time when you're going to suddenly think maybe you should do your will, if you haven't already.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
it's pretty simple. No kids and
But if it's not done, this will be the time to do it. That's what I'm saying. And then, of course, even if the 8th house is money you borrow from others, so it's mortgages. I don't like mortgages, but that's just the house of mortgages. You might feel the need to, maybe we should buy a place, a cabin on the lake.
Investment property.
Yeah. So that would be, and if you do, it's likely to suddenly, come through.
I love that.
Where you're actually borrowing money from the bank, which is, that is, again, 8th house stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, well, I like that interpretation. Where is it going to be in your chart?
Oh, it's fully ensconced in my massive 11th house.
Ooh.
So I have spoken about this before. Uranus went to the 11th, Jupiter to the 11th, on it goes. Yeah. And I've got this extra long 11th house with Taurus, Gemini, the full load of Gemini, and a bit of Cancer too. So this is all going to shift in the 11th house.
Yeah.
And we were just talking actually about making some adjustments on newsletters and what we're thinking of doing and how we're going to approach these things to grow this community.
Yeah.
Not only with our podcast, but with other strings I have on my bow, and finding the way to work it forward, which works online stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I love that. Communication, technology.
I'm not going to learn coding, but that would be a great thing to do if somebody wanted to do that. That doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah.
But
what codes are there now to learn? When the AI can do the code faster, I mean, I wonder if coding is even, just literally in the last year, like it's become like, is that even the best place to put all your marbles career-wise?
I don't know.
Yeah. It's like
so
soft engineering now.
Well, that isn't going to happen. Maybe I can step up my languages, but that is more a 9th house thing. But this 11th house is all to do with the newsletter, the community, and maybe a Patreon, which we were talking about in some other areas.
Totally.
But it's all about finding your tribe.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't really know how to say it because my tribe is as big as I can deal with at the moment. If my tribe was any bigger, I would be struggling with it. And I've had to pare things back because I can't be doing all sorts of things that I want to do.
Yeah.
There's just not enough time in the day. So you have to be more selective with what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if we also say that Uranus rules astrology.
Absolutely.
This is, we are talking about it.
And Gemini rules communication. So it's
teaching astrology. I might actually go back to that. I have been toying for probably 5 years about doing a course. I don't know if I ever will, but I still do like teaching. Yeah. So that might be something I circle back around to in some other form.
Yeah, and finding new and disruptive and bite-sized ways of doing that. Because Gemini is all about the bite-sized knowledge and information, the daily whatever.
The little chunk of stuff coming
not
through.
Like the more Sagittarian kind of 9th house.
Yeah. Because people have been telling me about my newsletter that it's so meaty. And I'm thinking, okay, is it too meaty? And they were saying the meat should be put into a course, so it's organized.
So it's hors d'oeuvres.
Yes, little nibbles. Yeah. So that might be something else that I consider during this time. And as you say, Uranus has still got many years to be in this 11th house for me. So I hope to establish, what with everything else that's going on, to somehow put some effort into that.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we were saying, this is kind of it's not generational, but it's definitely a transpersonal transit. And anytime the outer planets move signs, it is a big deal for the entire world because everybody's going through this transit. And obviously it, as we said, only, comes around every 80 years or so.
Yeah.
And the entire world is going to be affected by this change. And sure enough, when we talked about the previous transit of Uranus through Gemini, it was the era of World War II. And before that, there was the Revolutionary War and the Civil War in the U.S. And so there is an association with these big wars and these big transformational. It's unfortunate, but we have to kind of mention that there are also amazing things that have happened. So, for example, after World War II, women entered the workforce during World War II in the West, and there was an incredible push for education and for fair housing, the GI Bill, all of these. There was an incredible wealth inequality before the war, and there was the Great Depression and the robber barons of the early 20th century and stuff like that. And so World War II ushered in this incredible equalizing factor in the financial reality of the Western world, and that's where we are. We have to speak to that, but there were all these. Colleges became majorly funded by the governments, and the housing became funded by the governments, and so you had all these people being able to afford houses, like homes, like literally property, whereas before they had kind of lived, crammed into cities, and we're speaking in massive generalities, but so there was this huge equalizing force that came along with Uranus and Gemini, and technology definitely fueled that. The technologies that were bred out of war. I mean, war is it's a force,
like a catalyst.
It's a catalyst for technology and
like
for
telephones in the homes.
Yeah, exactly. All of these things kind of come out of the unfortunately the catalyst for war, and we are a warlike species. I mean, if you look at chimpanzees, they have rudimentary technology, and it's because they go to war. It's because they fight each other. They use tools with their hands, partially to feed themselves, but mostly to fight each other.
Yes. And
that is the human nature as well. But if you look back even farther than that, the Gutenberg, the printing press, was invented when Uranus was in Gemini.
Oh, so interesting.
Yes, exactly. And we have tons of these revolts that happen that are politically motivated, but then they bring with them a great equalizing force and an uplifting of the peasantry or the lower classes, and a great sort of leveling of the access to information. And you may think, well, how much more access to information could we have? Kind of like, don't we all have it? But the ability to understand languages and the opening of the fact that ChatGPT or any other AI can now translate on the fly accurately. Like, this wasn't a thing 5 years ago.
No.
The universal translator of like the old Star Trek show, where you could just go to any planet and just like understand each other. Like, that's real now. And it's not another planet, but it's literally any other country, any other website or text. And it's not like kind of a garbage translation. It's real, and it's also real because it's been democratized, and people actually have inputted into it, and the AI is sweeping all of that up and consuming it and spitting it back out at like the speed of light. So we now actually have the ability to understand and communicate with anyone on the globe in real time, which was a fantasy 10 years ago. So this is amazing, and with great knowledge comes great responsibility. That might be a buzzword for Uranus in Gemini. Great power, that's Pluto, but great knowledge, and that's Gemini for sure. Yeah. And like, obviously, with great knowledge about other people, we can either use it for good or ill. We can use it to exploit them or to manipulate them, which we obviously see. We talked about pig butchering. We talked about the algorithm that's preying on your weaknesses and your addiction. But you can also use that in small ways to engage with people and to communicate with them and to realize your similarities.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what your commonalities, and you find your tribe, as we said.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's still Uranus, so it's still inventions coming that are leveling the playing fields for the underdog.
Right.
So we see this here in Vancouver with our multicultural environment, where the place is full of immigrants. Over 52% are immigrants, and not everyone's English is up to par. But these days, it's getting better because of this.
So quickly.
Yeah. So everyone's got a say, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, a much more equal playing field.
Yes.
Even in the face of increasing inequality and increasing expensiveness of what's the word, of decreasing affordability. Yeah.
Yes.
But perhaps there will be a way of technology leveling that and helping us to have a better foothold in being able to just survive and not be overcome by debt and unaffordability
But it's also going to give people their voice.
Yes.
Right?
Totally.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting what unfolds in the next 7 years, right?
Definitely. Yeah. I'm optimistic about this transit.
Yes, it is a good one. I like it. Yeah. Okay, so we've had a look at Uranus's new fresh entry into Gemini, leaving Taurus. We've spoken about the dates this is going to occur, the fact that it's going to retrograde back and forth a little bit. And we've also had a look at some of the historical, what happened last time Uranus was in Gemini, what we can anticipate this time as Uranus goes into Gemini. We've also had a look at a couple of houses, which is almonds are nice because we just have, and that's the way it goes. So clearly, it's going to be for everyone. Everyone's going to feel this Uranus going through Gemini, and it's going to be. We think it's going to be a very interesting time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have enjoyed this podcast or found value in it, please do share it with anybody who'd be interested. Make sure that you're getting our newsletter, and you can sign up for that at starzology.com/newsletter. And additionally, make sure that you're following Arwynne, and you can find her at...
You can find me at mspink.net. That's mspink.net. And I am sending out a weekly newsletter every Saturday. I'm talking about art and goddesses and a bit of personal nostalgia and books, etc. It's a good read.
It's a good read, indeed. Yeah. So, Arwynne, I want to thank you so much for joining me again on this podcast. It's been great having you.
It has been great to be here. Thanks so much.
And thanks so much to our listeners, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.